Okay, so I would just like to give you an update on how I got along on my trip this time. So first of all, let you know that I'm back in Sweden and I'm still alive, which is remarkably great. So here at the beginning of the video, I've just got a bit of footage of myself. Well, I'm actually shooting the footage. So this is a buddy of mine. This is just diving with the scooter, and we're just coming down. And here we're going to come out through the entrance, just to give you an idea of what the conditions were like. And to remind you what diving is all about. So here we are just coming out, and boom, that's the end of the dive. Okay, so this is the map as I had it at the end of my 2019-2020 trip, and then this is where it was when I started this time, obviously. So I was able to do some work on the top half of the cave, so basically this section up here. So I'm just going to zoom back into that. Okay, like that. And over the course of my trip, I was able to find a bunch of extra passage. So if I just go forward in time a little bit, we should see some bits of cave start to appear. Okay, there. All right, and I was able to find a total of about 2 kilometers. So if I just whip it back and forward, you can sort of see where it is. So a lot of it is little bits we're all connecting through. So up here, little connections through, up through here, little connections through. There's also a new entrance, which I'll talk about a bit later on, which has been named the bomb shelter. So that's what I was able to do. So I found a lot of cave on one particular dive. So this section here, which just pops back in there. All of that totals about 350 meters. I found all that on just one dive, so I was super happy about that. And I also found this shortcut through here. So previously I had to get in here, swim all the way down here, all the way down there, then all the way back up there again. And I found this shortcut, so that was also very handy for me. So altogether I found about an extra 2 kilometers. So I was very happy about that. And I also started making a more detailed map with extra stuff on it. I also found a bunch of stuff up here. If I just flip that back and forward, you can see there's a bunch of extra things. And I managed to find this here, which was still continuing on. And maybe I can go and look at that, and that will go even further. So that's how I managed to get along. So, as I said, there was a new entrance which wasn't there last time I was there. So this is the dive shop over here. The owner of the dive shop lives in this house here. And during my absence, I was not there for about 2 years. A tree fell down over here. And when they fell down, there was a sort of hole underneath where the tree was. And the landowner managed to see some water in there. So he started digging. And he was able to dig down. And he was able to find this new entrance, which he called the bomb shelter. I'll show you a picture of that in just a minute. And he kept on digging until he found water. And then he was able to get in there and actually find down and connect it into the main part of the cave system. So this little extra bit of passage here, he was able to find. Now also at this, on the timeline, I've got these extra passages here. That's because in his back garden, he was digging a water pump or well, which was another pipe which went down into the cave. So I was trying to find where that was. He said it's in around here somewhere. So all these passages here was where I was trying to find it. So I did manage to find these extra passages, but sadly I couldn't find his water pipe. So all of the here, this is a bit too deep. The depth of this here is around about 17, 18 meters. And he didn't tell me until after I'd spent, I don't know, maybe about several hours, 5 or 6 hours looking for it. He told me that actually, the pipe is only about 6 meters deep and it's just going into the very top of the cave. So where I was looking, I wouldn't have been able to find it anyway because it's too deep. So it must have just got into the very top of the cave somewhere where I couldn't find it. So I did find a new passage looking for it, but sadly I couldn't find his well casing, his water pipe. So this is a photo of the bomb shelter. As you can see, it's not very big, but it is possible to climb down that ladder and get into the cave that way. I didn't very often go in that way, but I kind of used it as an emergency exit. So knowing its existence enabled me to swim further in, carrying less gas than I would otherwise have done, because I knew that in the case of emergency, I would be able to climb out there. I didn't because I didn't have any emergencies, but it enabled me to plan my diving better. Okay, so I've included this video footage. You can see the visibility is terrible. This is because most of the time during the trip I was quite worried about the cave flooding out. So when I say the cave flooding, what happens is that water from the river flows back into the cave because the water pressure is higher on the river end than it normally is. And so water actually flows back into the cave. Now that water is usually very, very murky, as you can see. and it's also a lot colder, so it's pretty unpleasant all round. So at the start of this clip, I'd actually had to spend about a minute or 2 minutes groping around in very bad visibility trying to find the line. And you can see here that the visibility is not good at all, so I'm holding on to the line and swimming along. But suddenly you get to the point where the visibility clears up, and then going from being able to see about 20 centimeters, you can suddenly see everything and it's crystal clear like I showed you in the very first video. So you'll see my buddies coming along behind me in a minute, and I'll see him popping out. But we were concerned for quite some time that this was going to happen and the whole cave was going to flood out. Now, fortunately, that didn't happen, but that's one of the reasons why I did most of my work up on the northern section of the cave rather than this part, which is down by the river. Now, this is what I'd like to have as a finished map. So I've done part of the system, but not the whole thing, because it takes a really long time. So first thing I've done is added a legend to show what's on the map there, and then included thanks to a few people. So this is what I would ultimately like to end up with. So the previous map I showed you just had bits of the line, but on this one, what I've actually got is the widths of all the passages. So I have in some places measured it, and in other places sort of estimated it from video. And here is one of the entrances here, and then I've marked on features as well, like there's a little toy truck lying on the passage here, but you can see how big this is. So also if you click on the map, you get actually pictures. So this picture here was shot by this guy called Guy Bryant, which he's done, taken it at night, and then he's carefully lit up the cave there. So I actually helped him get one of the other pictures, and I'll explain a little bit about that later on. But we've done that. You can also have here the bomb shelter, which I showed you earlier. And then you can see little bits of the cave here. So on a couple of places I've labelled names. So this part of the cave here is actually really big. You can see here this is a church. And you can see maybe, yeah, over here, here's some cars. So you can see that's a car there to give you an idea of the scale. So this is really enormous. It's actually massive. It's kind of hard to get enough light in there to get nice footage of it. So I haven't got any video to show you of that. But you can see there. So this is what I'm trying to do, and I'd like ultimately to get the whole cave mapped out like this. So if I scroll further down here, we can see down in this section down here, in this part of the cave's actually got 2 layers. So there's this blue part, which is the upper layer. This here is a little debris cone. And then there's another part of the passage which actually runs underneath it. So you can see here, this is purple. I've tried to render this so you can see what's happening. So there's part of passage which runs underneath, and then these spots here are holes where you can actually drop down. So you can swim along this way, and then you can drop down this hole or down this hole, and then you come into this deeper section. You can swim all the way around there. You can come here, and then you can either come back up this hole, or you can swim along past this hole and come back up here. Now also on the thing I've actually managed to add some additional bits, so I can put the line on if I want. So this is all the line showing where the line actually is. I can make that go away. And I've also marked depths. So if I turn that on, there you can see what the depths are. So the arrow towards the bottom is actually showing the depth at the bottom, and here is the depth at the top. You can see that in a few different places. And I've marked on penetrations as well, both in meters and in feet. You can't see any there really. If I zoom out a bit. So we can see this is how far it is away from the entrance. So from 263 meters, it is to swim from here to here. So I had to measure all of that. If I actually go way over here, this one, the end of that is 1,373 meters. And then I've got 3 different ones here. It's 1,001 meter from that one, and then that one from there. So that's from the bomb shelter. That's from the escape hatch, and then that is from the Luraville spring. So I measured it from here, which is the escape hatch, and here from the spring. So if you get in here and swim all the way around there, all the way up there, all the way up to there, then it's 1,373 meters. So this is ultimately what I want to produce for all of the caves, or all of the cave. I just haven't got around to it there. I've got as far as here, and I will need to come back and continue, because to measure all of the cave, or even to shoot video of all the cave and then work it out, takes a really long time. So this is a photo that I was involved with. So Guy Bryant made this one. And what we had to do is go there at night, and then he set up his cameras and took lots and lots of long exposure shots. Meanwhile, I swam around with some video lights, lighting up the cave very, very carefully. And then he amalgamated all the photos together and produced this. So he's producing a book, and he had people help him, and I helped him on this one photo. So it came out pretty cool, I thought. All right, and then that's the end of what my trip was about. Thank you very much for watching.